Hello and welcome to our latest edition of Novi Talks. Today, I'm thrilled to have with us Keeley Harvey Mason. I'll do that again. Today, we have Keeley Harvey Mason, who is an associate of Novi, who runs her own company dealing with visas and company setups. So, welcome, Keeley. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm good, thank you. How
Amazing.
are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
That's good news.
So I'd like to start really before we get into the nitty gritty of the visas and company setups, and so the viewers can actually understand what you do. But I want to find out a little bit about yourself first of all. So how long have you been in the UAE or Dubai?
I'm coming into my 5th year here now.
Fifth year. Okay.
Yes.
And when you came to Dubai, you came and did this, or you were doing something else?
So when I first got here, I was the manager of a business center. So I rented out the offices and to obviously business owners, and I used to speak to them all, and they all had issues when it came to their business setup and getting the right visa. And then I was thinking, how could it be so hard? Where are the gaps? Why is everybody got the same problem? So then I went on a little researching journey and thought, oh, I could do this.
So how long were you working as a manager of a business center?
I was there for around a year, maybe less than a year.
Okay. And during
Yeah.
that time, then you also did your research
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
visas and
And it
things.
was because understanding the difference between more the business formation, which was the mainland, the free zone. There was so much to learn because there's like over 42 free zones. And to start with, I thought I will never understand this. There's too much.
Well, that's grown. I had in my head that it was only around 30 odd.
No,
It's now
there's like
42.
over 42, yeah.
Are they growing like pretty much every year, or
Yeah.
has it been static at 42 for a while?
No, it's growing. They're growing more and more, but I feel like we're going to run out of space soon. So I think we're coming up to the
No,
peak.
I
No.
don't. I don't think so. Dubai's just going to keep doing
Yeah,
this,
that's true.
getting closer to Saudi Arabia. Amazing. So you're an exclusive associate for Novi Properties,
Yes, I am.
but what do you actually do for Novi? What's your role?
So I actually deal with all of the employment visas. So my company acts as the PRO. So we do all the employment visas, the labour contracts, deal with the Ministry of Human Resources, Moray. And we also deal with your agent's clients. So when they need a golden visa or business setup or power of attorney, then we deal with them for that also.
How big is your team?
Ooh, so we have 7 of us now.
Seven.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you get involved on the day-to-day PRO stuff or
Yeah,
not
I do.
really? You do?
I'm a control freak. So I see the emails and I'm really trying to actively not be as involved. So I see all the emails come through because I'm either CC'd or have like the, the master account. And then when I see a medical, if I haven't noticed that the medical's been sent to the company where it needs to go to, I'm like, hello, or I send it myself. So I am quite actively involved.
But do you go and do the PRO stuff or not? I mean,
Oh,
did you or
very rarely. So when I first started, that's how I got the connections in the industry, and that's how I built the company because I thought if people are having language barrier issues and there are just so many, there's got to be a way.
Hmm.
So I started to do the PRO work myself. I started to understand it, and then I started to kind of make my own plan around how to get it and just kind of I think people follow a certain structure or plan on how to obtain something, but I kind of made my own journey.
I can't imagine that there are any lady PROs, or I mean, are you the
No,
only one or?
probably, yeah. And I'm probably the only British one. So I'm quite demanding. So when I go in there, I'm like, no, this is what I want. No, this, because it's very,
But I always thought language skills play a big part in being a good PRO, especially Arabic.
yeah.
Do you speak Arabic?
I don't speak Arabic, but a lot of the PROs and a lot of the people that work in the AMA centers, they're not actually Arabic. A lot of the people are Indian.
So do
So
you speak Hindi then?
I don't speak Hindi. I don't speak Arabic, but I feel like everybody has the language barrier issues because there's so many different nationalities. So you kind of just have to water down. With me, I have a strong Birmingham accent, strong British accent, so I kind of have to water it down depending on who I'm speaking to.
That's so funny. Okay, so let's get into the nitty gritty of your role. So talk me through how many types or different types of investor visas there are.
Okay. So property investor visas, we have the 2-year investor visa and the 10-year golden visa.
Okay, so what's the difference between the two, apart from obviously the time frame?
Okay. The 2-year visa, you have to have a property worth the value of 750,000 dirhams, but also the equity of 750,000 dirhams has to be within the property.
Ah, right. Okay. Whereas my understanding for golden visa, the value is 2 million,
Yeah,
but you don't have to have that equity in it
that's correct.
to qualify.
That's correct. So with the 10-year golden visa, you can have a property worth the value of 2 million, but you don't have to have the equity of 2 million in there. So if the property is mortgaged or off plan, you can still be eligible even if you haven't paid the full amount.
Okay, but I noticed there's a visa missing from what you were saying. You was just saying there was a 750 and the 2 million one. Wasn't there a retiree visa?
Yes,
What's
Mario.
happened to that?
So there's a 5-year retirement visa, and you have to have a property worth the value of 1 million, and the equity of 1 million has to be in the property.
So that's that's
That's
still
still a
live.
thing. Yeah,
Okay. Do you do many of those?
not many. I've probably done one, to be
Is that
honest.
because I'm the only oldest swinger in town?
No.
So let's stick with the golden visa. So for the golden visa, I think you just touched on it there. So do you have to have paid all of it off? What if I need a mortgage? Just again, just talk us through in pure basic terms for
Okay,
the viewers.
no problem. If you have a property that is on mortgage and it's worth the value of 2 million, as long as you've paid the down payment, which you would have to get the mortgage, and we get an NOC.
Now, when you say a down payment, let's
Mhm.
clarify because uh, if it's ready,
Yeah,
the down payment effectively
it's more
is
of a down payment to the bank. So,
right.
you pay like when you get a mortgage, you pay the deposit or
So
whatever.
really, it's only at the point of transfer then,
Correct.
once you actually own the property, because then, in theory, if you are getting a mortgage, you will have paid 20% of your
Exactly.
own money, and then
Exactly.
80% is on the mortgage.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's off plan,
Yeah.
you would have paid effectively 24%,
Correct.
20% plus the 4% transfer fee whilst it's going ahead. Okay.
Exactly. So with the mortgage, you need an NOC from the loan provider as part of the application as a supporting document. Once we have that and the property's worth the value of 2 million, we combine all the title deed, the NOC, the passport, and the personal details. As part of the application, we submit it, that's fine. With off plan, 20% down payment, 4% DLD, but we need the accrued that comes from Dubai
Right,
land.
right. So it's fair to say then that if you're buying a ready property,
Yeah,
it's probably better that you do all of that. You do the transfer.
yeah,
You actually own the property,
yeah.
whether it's through a mortgage or not. You finish the transfer and then you submit
Yeah,
for the golden
you
visa.
have
You
to do
can't
that.
do it during or at the same time, correct?
You can't submit the application for the golden visa without the title deed or the accrued.
Right. Okay. Fine. And obviously, you'll get the accrued once you pay the 20% plus four, and obviously sign the SPA
Yes.
for that. Okay. Fine.
Yeah. And as well, if you are getting a property on off plan, you've paid the 20%, you've paid the 4%, and you've done it for the purpose of the golden visa, you have to let the developer know because they may not register it with Dubai Land straight away. And we need the accrued from Dubai Land, which is
Okay.
what the 4% registration fee is for.
Okay. That's fine. So sticking with off plan.
Yes.
So is there a specific requirement to be eligible for the golden visa in terms of the build percentage or
No.
or not?
So it used to be 40%, then it was 20%, then it was 1%,
Oh wow.
and now there's no percent required.
So even if it's a pure off plan where the developer hasn't even put a spade in the ground,
Yeah.
but the buyer has paid the 20% plus four and has got the accrued, it's eligible and you can start the process.
Yes. The only thing is, if it is 0%, depending on the credibility of the developer, we may need a receipt from the developer to escrow to show that the money has gone into escrow.
Okay, amazing. So Dubai has a lot of foreign investors.
Yeah.
People don't necessarily live here. Now, once they've bought the property, do they need to be present in the country to actually either start the process or complete it?
Yeah. So we can do a pre-approval for free. They don't need to be here for that. That's just verifying all the documents. But we cannot submit the actual application until they are physically present in Dubai, because immigration will pick up that they're not here and reject the application straight away. Not only that, they need to have a medical, which is a chest X-ray and a blood test, and they need their biometric, which is the fingerprint. So nobody can do that on your behalf.
And so if they have to be here for all those reasons, which is fine, how long would they need to be? I'm thinking, would they incorporate doing this as part of a holiday, for
Yeah.
example? How
Yeah.
long would they need to be?
They can be here for, I always say, 7 working days. We can complete it in 5, but just to make sure that there's nothing pending or no further documents required for the application, it just gives like a 48-hour leeway.
So a nice 2 week holiday would be
Yes.
nice then.
And if they want to sponsor dependents as well, they need to come for longer, because we cannot sponsor the dependents until we have the
Until
main sponsors,
they have
Emirates ID.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that then leads me on to another question. So, assuming they've done their bit, how long then does it take for the sponsors to be? Oh, sorry, for the dependents to be sponsored?
It depends how old they are. If they're children and they don't require a medical and a biometric, we can pretty much do it in the same day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if they need a medical and biometric, that's the thing that takes time, because there's a delay in the biometric
So,
appointment.
is the age 18 and below don't need medicals,
Um,
or is it
so it's below 18, you don't need a medical, and below 16, you don't need a biometric.
okay? So, but children stop being, well, children are always children, but in terms of legality, I guess when they turn 21,
It's
they
18 here. It's 18. Well, I don't know what the legal age of a
No,
to
what I'm
become
trying
an
to
adult.
say is if you don't need a medical for under 18, beyond 18, they will need a medical.
Yeah,
But I guess it doesn't matter what their age are.
yeah,
I
exactly.
think that's what I was trying to answer
Yeah.
myself. Okay.
So we've had dependents where they've had their medical at 17 and now they're like 19 and they haven't had their medical yet. So it must be upon renewal that they then pick up that they need the medical.
And of course, if it's a 10-year visa, the renew. I mean, how does the government or the entities do they send an email out on the at the 9.5 year or
Mm,
6 months before expiry, or how does it work, or because no one's renewed their 10-year visa, it is
exactly.
just new,
Yeah.
nobody knows.
So the golden visas have only been around since 2019. We haven't come up to renewal stage yet, but I can only imagine it's going to be the same as every other visa expiry. So we know when it's coming up, we get notified. The banks start notifying you saying your Emirates ID and whatever is coming
Yeah,
up to expiry, and then that just kind of triggers the chain of
there's lots of touch points, I
yeah,
suppose.
exactly.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it, then they're going to block you out of using your bank, and
Oh
you kind
wow,
of get it
so
from
it's
every
really so it's
angle.
really
Well, that's
serious.
with any visa. So if
Yeah.
you don't renew your visa in time, you get like 30 days after expiry, and then they shut you out of the bank.
Goodness. Okay, so I mean, in your experience, has anybody ever been rejected for a golden visa?
On my watch, nobody has been rejected for a golden visa. But if certain nationalities, for example, are not able to enter on a tourist visa, so if they've bought a property, that's fine. They can buy the property, but they can't enter into Dubai because of the sanctions to be able to proceed with the golden visa
So who
application.
who are you referring to then,
Um,
nationality wise?
Iranian can be difficult, and Pakistan can be difficult, and Nigeria can be difficult.
So if they've bought a property, so they're eligible,
Yeah,
but they can't finish their process because they physically cannot come here.
yeah.
That's pretty bad, isn't it? I mean, they
It is bad. And the thing is, it's separate. So the client knows that they're purchasing a property for the purpose of the golden visa, but the actual processes are completely different. So, yes, you can purchase a property for any amount in Dubai as a non resident, But then to become a resident is a completely different ball game and a completely different application process. So I think that's where the crossover lies. So a lot of people think, oh, I'll buy a property, then I'll be eligible for the golden visa, and then I can get the 10-year residency, which in most cases is correct. But if your country is on the sanction list, you can't physically get here to do the process. So yes, you are eligible, and that doesn't change, but we just can't do the process
Massively
right now.
frustrating, I would have thought, for the individuals,
Exactly. Yeah.
absolutely. Okay, so we talk about 2 million dirhams is the sort of cutoff point for the
Yeah.
golden visa. Now, let's put a scenario to you. So let's say I bought a property 2 years ago, and at the time that property was worth, let's say, 1.5 million. If that property now has reached 2 million or above, am I now eligible for a golden visa based on the fact that it is now worth 2 million? And who determines that valuation?
Okay. If you bought a property for 1.5 2 years ago, and you know that, in the market now it sits above 2 million, 2 million or above, I can do a pre approval from the DLD because that's the only valuation that they will take into consideration to see if we can get the property valued at 2 million or above. If it comes back as yes, you then have to pay for the valuation, you'll receive the certificate, and we use that as a supporting document with your title deed for the
So that's
application.
interesting. So they pretty much tell you whether it's worth the 2 million or not before you've actually paid for
Yeah,
the valuation,
exactly. So it's a pre-approval.
which is great if it comes in above the 2 million. Imagine though if it comes in below, do you still have to pay the?
No, you don't have to pay. That's why it's a
Oh,
pre-approval.
okay, amazing.
So
Okay, so
yeah.
that that
So
that's good.
yeah, I've made friends in the DLD, so they do the pre-approvals for me.
And is that something exclusive just to you, or anybody can?
Um, I know it's exclusive to me, but I'm not sure if they give that to. I'm sure that they've got other people that are as demanding as I am to want to know before their clients spend the money.
Fair enough, fair enough. So other questions that is asked of me, and I would like to get clarification from yourself. To apply to be eligible for the golden visa, is it just one property that's valued at 2 million? Or, for example, if I bought a couple of studios at 1 million each, could that work?
Yeah. So you can combine multiple properties for the purpose of one application for the golden visa, providing that all of the properties are in the same emirate. So we can't mix Dubai and Abu Dhabi
Or
or
Ras Al Khaimah
yeah,
or something?
exactly. They all
Interesting.
have their own municipalities.
And is that something new, or I mean, in the past, was it only one property? I mean, because I know these these sort of regulations change all the
Yeah,
time. And you mentioned about the build; it was 40%, then 20, and now zero.
exactly.
Has that always been the case?
It hasn't always been the case, but the laws around everything in Dubai, because Dubai's like a startup company, isn't it? The laws are forever evolving. So you, like any business, when you start, you don't know kind of what you're going to come up against, or you need to find your clients and see what their needs and requirements are, and then you navigate from there. So I think that's what the Dubai is doing. So it's
Ever
forever evolving. The
ever
rules are
changing.
always changing. They put a hold on the 2-year investor a couple of weeks ago. They've brought it back. So they're just, yeah,
Oh, so the 750 one that you
yeah, it was on
mentioned
hold.
earlier, that was on hold.
Yeah. So they were taking no more applications, but now they are again.
So that now that's opened.
Yeah.
And tell me what, in your experience, what's the most popular visa? Is it the golden
It's the
visa?
10-year golden visa. Yeah. Because with the 10-year golden visa, it's the only visa that allows you to come and go as you don't have to be here for a certain amount of days. You don't have to visit once every 6 months like normal visas. It gives you the most freedom and flexibility. And you still get all the benefits of being a resident.
Do, do you think, again, through changes, because I remember the investor visa was 1 million, then they dropped it to 750. Do you think that's likely to be dropped again, or not?
I don't think that it will be dropped again. This is just
As in the value, I mean, not
yeah,
dropped as in
no,
not,
no, no.
yeah.
I think with the 2-year investor visa, there's a lot more hoops you have to jump through to obtain it. And I personally think it's a lot more trouble than it's worth, especially for international investors
To have it, you
to
mean?
have it
Because you've got to be here and you've
because
got
you
to
have to
leave the
be here.
country after a certain time, or
That's the only visa that requires a police clearance certificate. So it takes a lot longer to do the process. It's a lot different to all the others. So if they do drop the value, I can't see them dropping the value. But if they do drop the value,
the only reason I mention that is because just sitting here listening to the benefits of that visa is not that great,
yeah,
to be
exactly.
honest with you. Of course, comparing it to the golden visa. And so I'm wondering, the reason I asked that question is because to make it even more attractive, or to make the entry level easier,
Mm,
and I know prices have all gone up,
mm,
and therefore now in the major part it's a studio apartment at that kind of level.
yeah,
But there are still many parts of different Emirates
yeah,
that, 500, for example, if we look at that, will buy you quite a lot. It may not
yeah,
buy you a lot
yeah,
necessarily in Dubai,
yeah.
but especially in Ajman and Sharjah, it will definitely buy you more property. But
In the other Emirates, you can get a 5-year visa, property investor visa, with the value of 1 million. So that's probably why Dubai dropped it to 750.
oh, okay. But that's a 5-year visa,
Yeah.
whereas the investor visa in Dubai is a 2-year visa.
Yeah. But you can still get the 2-year visa in the other Emirates. They have 2 years, 5 years, 10 years.
But Dubai
Only has,
had a 5-year, which we called it the retirees one.
yeah.
Was that always a retirees one, or was that an investor visa that just had a longevity of 5 years that's kind of morphed into the retirement
It was
visa?
like a silver visa. So
Silver.
that was 1 million. So it was the same. I'm not sure actually if you had the silver visa and the retirement visa, if they were both there.
Okay.
But there was a 5-year visa for the 1 million value. So that's probably why they reduced the value of the 2 years. So to kind of show, well, you can't, we just taking 3 years off and you pay the same amount.
Sure. I guess with all these changes anyway, there's a possibility that it may come back, or again, Dubai might follow suit and bring in that interim or the silver one, as you call it. If we've got a gold one, we might as well have a silver one.
Exactly.
And I suppose the 750 becomes the bronze, I
Yeah.
assume, and then you've got the Olympic medals.
Yeah, exactly. It all supports the greater goal of getting people to invest into Dubai.
So we've talked at length about obtaining the visa, but the visa obviously is attached to the property. Now, what happens in situations where the actual holder of the golden visa has to sell a property for whatever reason? What happens to the visa? Can he sell, or is he locked in? I mean, what are the details?
Okay, so if you have a property with a golden visa attached, firstly, you won't be able to transfer at the transfer center until you've released the visa from the property. There'll be a block there.
So release the visas. That means I've lost it then, or what does that
No,
mean?
you can hold it. So we can just detach the visa from the property for up to 60 days. And that allows you the time to either purchase something else or transfer the visa onto another property with the same value.
Well, that's interesting. So it's a little bit like when someone is changing jobs
Yeah,
and they have obviously an employment visa. If they're changing jobs, their visa gets cancelled. But if they have dependents like a wife or children, they can put them on hold. So now they've done
exactly.
that for the golden visa.
Yeah,
That's very clever. So 60 days. So I suppose they could start the process of selling, but before they do the NOC, I would imagine that's when they would, I suppose, put the golden visa on hold,
yeah,
because that's when the 60 days start.
yeah,
So you don't want to start it too soon in case there's delays in your sale
yeah.
of the property.
Exactly. And you just have to be really mindful for clients because they don't know this. So they'll go to the trustee to do the transfer. They haven't told the agent that they've got a golden visa or it hasn't been picked up somewhere. And then they just, depending on who you see at the whatever transfer or trustee you're at, they'll just refuse to do the transfer. So everybody's booked in to do this transfer, meet at the trustee, and then they just can't do it because the visa's
So
attached.
I've now just thought of another qualifying question as an agent. When you're talking to a seller and the seller says, I want to sell my house, and of course you start to ask questions about the property and how long they owned it and perhaps what they're going to do later on. they've now got to, I suppose, ask the question,
Yeah.
do you have a golden visa attached to
Yeah.
this, to then inform them
Yeah.
that there is a process that they need to do.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
that's good.
Especially because, some people like to chance it. So they may think, oh, it might not be picked up if there's a visa. They will know.
Everything is
They
picked
are
up.
all attached to each other, all
Well, of
the
course,
different
it's all linked, isn't it?
departments.
Immigration is linked to real estate and the land
Exactly.
department.
And it comes from DLD. So it comes from Dubai Land Department. That's who issues the visa. That's where we do all the applications. It's all attached to the real estate. So yeah.
Amazing. Okay. Right, Keely, I think we've spoken enough about the visas. So let's turn our attention to company setups. So, how many different ways are there to incorporate a company in Dubai, let's say?
Okay. You've got free zone and you've got mainland.
And of course, I've got to ask the question: what's the difference between the two? Why? I mean, do you do a fact find on the company or the potential company
Yeah,
to then
absolutely.
be able to
Yeah.
advise them you should do mainland or free or free zone?
Yeah.
Let's just first of all start with what's the difference between the two?
Okay. Well, firstly, mainland, you've got obviously the seven Emirates. So you can operate in any of the seven Emirates.
Even if your business is in Dubai,
Yeah. So
or sorry, just to clarify then, so if I want to open up my business in Dubai, surely
yeah,
I've got to have a
the mainland in
Dubai.
Dubai. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
So
not that I can get it from Ras Al Khaimah. What you're
correct.
saying is you can open up businesses
Yeah.
anywhere
And they'll be
mainland.
classed as mainland.
Right,
So you've
okay.
got seven onshore.
Okay.
Obviously you've got offshore, you've got two financial zones, DIFC and ADGM, Abu Dhabi
Abu
and
Dhabi, yeah.
Dubai. And then you've got over 42 free zones. Now, when I have a client who is opening a business, we do like a thorough needs analysis because we need to know exactly what you'll be doing, what the activities are, if there's any further approvals needed. Do you need a local sponsor? Because some activities still do. And then from that information, I'll be able to determine and also what their goals are. What are they trying to achieve? Is it a holding company, DIFC or ADGM? Is it a marketing company? You don't need the overheads of having a physical office space, so a free zone, or a real estate agency or a car rental. They will have to be mainland. And you need obviously RERA approvals for real estate, and for car rental, you need RTA approvals and you need physical space. So, depending on the client's goals, after we've done the needs analysis, we then decide where to place
So
them.
what are the benefits of a free zone then?
Honestly, if you can get a company in the free zone, it's just a cheaper option for you. And like for example, with if you had import and export and you are going from one country to the other, from China to the UK, for example, you don't have to pay any import fees in Dubai as long as it doesn't come in Dubai. So there's just,
When you say as long as it doesn't come in Dubai, it can land in Dubai in transit and go
yeah,
off,
but it
but
can't come
it
through
doesn't
port.
it doesn't pass customs, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So you don't pay customs tax. So there's, yeah, it really just depends on, no client is the same.
Now you've mentioned a few businesses that need to be in mainland.
Yeah.
What are the kind of businesses that then you would recommend go to a free zone?
Management consultancy, marketing, um,
So more services rather
yeah,
than
service providers, like,
manufacturing needs to be in mainland, does
yeah,
it?
yeah. And it depends, like, is it a subsidiary of a bigger company? Is it, yeah, it just really depends on, most activities can go under a free zone. But it gets complicated when you'll need a physical office space, how big the company is. Like, even if you were developing an app, for example, you can develop an app in the free zone, but then depending on what that app is, if it requires like a payment gateway,
Mm.
for example, then you'll need different approvals and then we'll have to move it over into the mainland. And also about the visas. So for free zone, you can only have a certain amount of visa quota and it's up to like 7 or 10 maximum. If you've got a company and you want 30 staff members, then it's just not feasible to have it in a free zone. You'll have to have a mainland and extend your quota and extend your office space.
Is that very common then that you kind of start off in a free zone and then through either your activities or dare I say your growth,
Yeah.
you then might have to migrate
Yeah.
into mainland?
Yeah, and also it depends on what kind of consultant you speak to. So I've worked with a lot of startup companies, and I always tell people to start small if they can. Like, if it's not a branch of another company, start small and add as you go along. A lot of people I've noticed, and it hasn't worked, they start really big and then they don't get the cash flow to support what they've tried to do, or their initial cash flow runs out. So then they have to downsize. So I just think logically, why wouldn't you start smaller? And best case scenario, you grow, your growth is like 100% in 1 year. And then you move it over to the mainland and then you expand and then you employ more staff instead of doing it the reverse. And then because if you do it the reverse and you're paying for an office space, but you don't have the staff or you're not getting the leads, then you're paying all this money for what when you could have started in the free zone.
What about the different fees then? Like the authority fees? I mean, are they expensive or?
Yeah, so it varies. So with a free zone, you can have up to 3 activities on the license. It doesn't have to, it can be completely different categories. So you can have e-commerce, corporate service provider, immigration services. They're just mine, but they're different. You can put them together on one license. Now with mainland, you can't do that. So you can't have real estate buying and selling and real estate development. There'd have to be two separate licenses. You couldn't have real estate and marketing on one license.
But hold on, developers can also sell properties themselves, their own properties.
Yeah.
Is that the loophole, that it's their
I'm
properties?
not 100% sure if they will have a separate license for that, or because they are the developer, there is a loophole there. Yeah.
Okay, it's fine.
So yeah, there's lots to it.
Right. So to try and, I guess, incorporate both conversations, visas, and the business, I've just thought of one other thing. If a specific client doesn't qualify, obviously, for the golden visa because he's not paying 2 million, and in fact, let's say he doesn't have the 750 either,
Yeah.
what other ways could a client, an investor, anyone get a residency visa in
Okay.
order to stay in the country?
They can set up their own company and they can sponsor themselves. With that visa, though, they will be required to enter into the UAE once every 6 months to keep the visa active.
The only other way I've just thought is obviously get a job,
Yeah.
in which
Get a
case,
job,
the
easiest, cheapest.
the employer becomes your sponsor. But I
Exactly.
just meant from an independent point of view. So
Yeah.
that's answered that. Okay. Well, I think that's come to the end. So I want to
Thank
thank
you.
you for clarifying a lot of those. I hope actually that for anybody listening, that's helped in any of the questions that you may have had regarding visas, golden visas, and maybe others to come, including the company setups. If you have any questions, then please get in touch with Novi Properties and we can direct them to Keeley anyway. Other than that, I want to say thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And I hope you all enjoyed our latest edition of Novi Talks.